Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking something genuinely groundbreaking from the Language Teaching Research Quarterly. We're looking at a paper by Zia Tajudeen and Jaber Kamali, and honestly, it completely transforms how we view language teaching. We so often think about teaching as just transferring knowledge, right? Pushing grammar rules and vocabulary lists into students' brains. But what if the real secret to a successful classroom isn't just what you teach, but exactly how you interact while you're teaching it? Well, that's exactly what we're exploring today as we decode Classroom Interactional Competence and introduce a brand new tool designed to actually measure it. Okay, let's dive into this roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the magic of interaction. Second, the missing measurement tool. Third, building the teacher scale. Fourth, the 9 interaction factors. And finally, upgrading your teaching. Starting with Section 1, the magic of interaction. What makes a language classroom truly come alive? Seriously, think about the absolute best class you've ever sat in. What made it click? Was it a teacher just standing at a whiteboard delivering a perfect, uninterrupted monologue about verb conjugations? Probably not. A great language classroom is dynamic. It's a living, breathing ecosystem of back and forth communication. It's all about those pregnant pauses, the eye contact, the sheer energy created between the students and the teacher. It's that invisible magic that transforms a quiet room into a hub of real, authentic communication. And this brings us to a really foundational concept that was formalized by researcher Steve Walsh back in 2006, Classroom Interactional Competence, or CIC for short. Walsh defines it as the ability of teachers and learners to use interaction as a tool for mediating and assisting learning. And I want you to really notice the phrasing there. It's not just about chatting to build rapport or being friendly. Interaction is the actual tool used to mediate learning. It's the engine that drives student understanding. Learning in this context is regarded as a social activity. It's something you actively do rather than something you just passively have. So the crucial point here is understanding the stark difference between language proficiency and interactional competence. Language proficiency is knowing the grammar, the vocabulary, the raw mechanics of the language itself. But interactional competence, that's knowing how to manage turns, how to read social cues, use eye contact effectively, and adjust your own speech on the fly to pull language out of your students. You can be the most proficient language speaker in the world, literally an expert. But if you lack interactional competence, you're going to struggle to actually teach it effectively. Let's move on to Section 2, the missing measurement tool, addressing a massive gap in language education. You see, the researchers noted a pretty glaring gap in the literature. They stated, there is no survey tool to measure teachers' classroom interactional competence. And this is incredibly frustrating. We know interaction is the secret sauce of a successful classroom, but historically, educators and researchers had absolutely no standardized, validated way to measure it. And it begs the question, if you can't measure it, how on earth can you expect teachers to systematically improve it? Which brings us to Section 3, building the teacher scale, taking us from theory to a fully validated tool. So how did they fix this? Well, they built this tool on incredibly solid science. Step 1, they generated a huge pool of items based on existing literature and had experts in applied linguistics and statistics rigorously scrutinize them. This reduced their initial 61 items down to 59. Step 2, they piloted this draft with 53 teachers, just making sure the wording wasn't confusing. For example, changing vague academic words like initiate to simpler ones like begin. Then, Step 3, they rolled out the final survey using a 6-point Likert scale, and they specifically chose a 6-point scale ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree to totally eliminate that wishy-washy neutral middle ground. They wanted to force participants to make a distinct, firm choice. And they didn't just test this on a handful of people. They administered this survey to an impressive 564 language teachers. This wasn't some small, localized sample. Getting a massive number like that gives the resulting data serious, undeniable statistical weight and credibility. The demographics of those 564 teachers were also really nicely balanced, looking at 42.5% male and 57.5% female participants. Having this kind of diversity helps ensure the scale isn't accidentally skewed by gender-specific teaching styles. Furthermore, the scale captures insights from a huge range of experience levels. About a third of them were rookies with 6 months to 2 years of experience, another third had 2 to 5 years, and a solid quarter had 5 to 10 years in the classroom. By including everyone from fresh graduates to seasoned veterans, the researchers basically ensured the scale is universally applicable. And this brilliantly illustrates the math behind the magic. You're looking at a scree plot from their exploratory factor analysis. And hey, don't worry if you aren't a statistician, I'm certainly not. But what this basically shows is how the researchers took those 59 separate survey items and mathematically proved that they naturally clumped together into specific categories. By filtering out all the statistical noise, they distilled the data down to 46 highly valid items grouped into 9 essential constructs or factors. Section 4, the 9 interaction factors. We're now looking at the actual DNA of a highly interactive teacher. Let's group these factors together to make them a bit easier to digest. First up are the visual and social factors. Visual organizers involves the physical presence of the teacher, having fair eye contact, using facial expressions to manage the class, and using your body language to really transmit a teaching point. Then, sociocultural interaction is all about awareness. It's things like arranging seats to actively foster interaction and adapting to the cultural backgrounds of your students. Because let's face it, a student's culture deeply impacts how they interpret teacher talk and social cues. Then we have Factor 5, which totally stands on its own: repair. This is a massive piece of the puzzle. Highly competent teachers don't just jump in and aggressively correct every single grammar mistake the second it happens. They're strategic. Actually, scratch that. They are highly calculated about it. They constantly decide which error is worth correcting, when to correct it so they don't derail a student's flow, and who should correct it, maybe giving the student the chance to notice and fix their own error first, or letting a peer step in to help out. Now, what's really interesting about this next slide is how teachers act as verbal drivers. Think about questioning. Do you ask display questions where you already know the answer just to test them? Or do you ask referential questions where you genuinely don't know the answer, sparking real, authentic conversation? Then there's language modification. Great teachers naturally modify their speech, adapting their grammar to the learner's exact level, or echoing a student's utterance so the whole class benefits. Finally, rhetorical script. This is basically pragmatics. It's actively teaching students how to apologize, how to make polite requests, and teaching formulaic expressions like never mind for effective, natural communication. Our final cluster is all about the flow managers. Here, the teacher is basically acting like an invisible conductor. Interactional patterns is about knowing exactly when to address the whole class versus facilitating student-to-student pair work. Turn-taking involves deciding who speaks, smoothing out overlaps, and encouraging students to speak at length. And crucially, managerial interaction. This includes topic control and, perhaps most importantly, wait time. That means allowing a sufficient, sometimes slightly uncomfortable pause after asking a question so a student actually has the mental bandwidth to process and formulate a good answer. Finally, Section 5, upgrading your teaching with practical applications for modern teachers. Let's move to how this all builds into actual, real-world application. For teachers, the TCIC scale is a wildly powerful self-assessment tool. You can literally use it tomorrow to audit your own classroom presence. For teacher educators and supervisors, it acts as a precise diagnostic tool to pinpoint exactly where a trainee is struggling. Maybe they are fantastic at grammar modification, but absolutely terrible at wait time. Ultimately, it provides a structured, evidence-based framework for professional development programs worldwide. So, what's the bottom line here? The ultimate takeaway from Tajidin and Kamali's research is that we absolutely must transform these abstract statistical constructs into actionable daily teaching habits. When you consciously practice your wait time, when you strategically manage your error repair, and use your body language to mediate understanding, you are going to dramatically boost student engagement and maximize those golden learning opportunities. Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought to take with you today. How competent is your classroom interaction? Are you just delivering content to a room, or are you truly mediating learning through every single glance, pause, and question? Think about your own teaching DNA and consider how you might use these 9 factors to make your next class truly come alive. Keep learning, keep reflecting, and thank you so much for joining us on this explainer.